Hi, I'm Graeme Daniels. I am the author of this book. It is entitled Crystal from the Hills, a novel, which I published about a year ago, around about this time last year. Um, and I've created several videos. This is about the fifth, maybe the sixth, to discuss the plots, various themes in the story. I'm a psychotherapist, so this is largely a psychological fiction with elements of mystery interwoven. And in my last video, about 3 months ago, I discussed some of the feedback that I'd been getting over the last year about the novel. And I do want to thank readers who have given me feedback, both positive and some critical, about the story. And here today I am going to follow up on some of that, but also use this video to introduce that I am in the midst of writing a sequel to Crystal from the Hills, whose working title is The Situation. And I hope to have this sequel completed sometime in 2014. And again, hopefully those who have read Crystal from the Hills, enjoyed it or otherwise, will be intrigued enough to read this follow-up. I think it's got a lot to offer. And even if you haven't, I think that the novels can stand alone, and part of the function of this video is to introduce characters and ideas that are throughout the story. And in particular, what I've been talking a lot about in these videos is the theme of trauma in the story of Chris Levitt, my protagonist from Crystal from the Hills. And it's a story of both episodic and chronic trauma, and that needs to be understood, that there is a present-day traumatic event that serves one layer of the drama of the story, but then through exploring the background of the character, I introduced that there really is a chronic trauma that the episode has built upon. And what I think has been difficult, and also, or maybe just a challenge for readers, is that a traumatized character, traumatized individual, is one who is often stalled in their feeling, or more stalled in the expression of their true self. So mine is a character who is largely dissociated and isolated from friends and from society as a whole. And I think that's a challenge for readers to both follow and care about. But that something happens in a drama wherein reality intrudes upon that traumatized individual's life, penetrating denial systems, those psychological mechanisms that protect individuals from reality. And in the climax of Crystal from the Hills, I think there is a question mark as to whether or not this reality intrusion is shocking and hurtful to Chris Levitt, the protagonist, or if it is indeed healing. So that leads to the sequel. As I said, currently being written under the working title of The Situation. I won't explain that title at this point, but in the second novel, readers will learn what happened more fully to certain characters in the first book. The tagline for Crystal from the Hills, some may recall, is an accident, a trauma, a disappearance, and a mystery. Actually, I might have one or two of those in the wrong order. But the accident is the driving of a truck by Chris Levitt into a body of water in West Marin County in the San Francisco Bay Area, for those familiar. The disappearance of his nicknamed friend, a person called Weed. Crystal, by the way, is the nickname of Chris Levitt. Weed is a drug dealer and ambiguously on the run from followers, stalkers who are not identified fully in the first book. But this episode of escape, of being on the run, culminates in this accident. This truck goes down in this body of water in West Marin. Chris resurfaces, and Weed does not. And what follows is Chris's itinerant life in Oakland. He returns to Oakland, where he lives. He's from the hills, but wanders the streets of Oakland for some time. Is homeless for several days, reunites with a girlfriend with whom he has a conflictual relationship, a girl named Jill, and another friend. And through their their reuniting, they ask after his circumstances, and Chris is reticent, confused, forgetful, and ultimately he lies. He lies about significant details of the accident with Weed, the missing friend. Well, that disappearance comes eventually to the attention of authorities, and a police investigation does ensue, and a mystery unfolds. And not only the mystery of the accident, but this mystery of Chris Levitt, this exploration of this character's mental disturbance, his history of, among other things, addiction, and a near psychotic preoccupation, probably psychotic preoccupation, with ghostly figures he calls shadows. These shadows, he calls them, are visions, essentially, informing Chris of crimes committed in the community, in society, but unknown to society. Only he, and as he learns, a few others can have these visions. And he learns towards the end of the story that he's not alone in having this affliction, and that others have created secret societies, actually, that for those that are dubbed the gifted. And it is this the climax around Crystal from the Hills leads to a sequel. There are aspects unresolved. And in the second novel, readers will learn more fully about what happened to Weed, the disappearing friend. They will learn what happens to Chris in the aftermath of this police investigation. They will learn what will he do with his gift. What will society do with the gifts of those who have such visions? Do they marginalize them? Are they people who will have influence? Now, I will introduce in this latter novel a new element that I hope brings an extra layer of drama that is perhaps implied in the subtext of Crystal from the Hills, but a big reason for the writing of the sequel is to flesh out this subtext and make it more real for the reader, and have more of an explicit contemporary meaning, I think. To that end, I will introduce readers to a new character, a man who is gifted in the fashion that I have described people like Chris Levitt to be, but also gifted in other ways that have more utility in the world, and in particular will be familiar to followers of political intrigue and current events. My character, Jules Grotius, is the name of a character who is on one level a sort of minor character, becomes significant, is a sort of Julian Assange-like figure, and a sort of whistleblower and former computer programmer, and now amateur journalist, rather like Assange is, and a figure who has important things to share with society. But due to the influence of things like the NSA, the transparency of the internet, he must find new mediums through which he, and in turn society, can disseminate important information. So there is going to be the thrust there of the new novel, which again I hope to be finished with in the new year. In the meantime, catch up by reading Crystal from the Hills. It's a little over 300 pages long, a good book in my opinion, and that of many others. I hope I've intrigued you with this intro. Thanks a lot for listening, and stay tuned.